It's time to lock in. We're talking SEC, college football, and more. This is AP as we see it.
I'm all about that action. I'm all about that action. I'm all about that action. I said I'm all about that action.
I'm AP Stidham from LA, Lower Alabama. This is AP as we see it, a weekly syndicated 1-hour show discussing the Southeastern Conference, college football on the national scene, and other sports. We'd like to welcome you to another edition of AP as we see it. We'd like to direct our audience to our social media platforms. We have the visual broadcast on YouTube channel, AP as we see it. You can also listen to it on Spotify. And we're broadcast to 20-plus stations, your local stations in the Southeast. So check that out as well on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We have all the events that we cover, all the interviews, the awards ceremonies, ball games, everything. We'll be at the Super Bowl next week in San Francisco, the Bay Area. Of course, it's held in Santa Clara, but we'll be around San Francisco. So we'll be at the Super Bowl next weekend. So look for all those interviews as well. So that's on our social media YouTube channel at AP as we see it, and then check our Facebook, our Instagram, our X accounts at AP as we see it, and also at AP Stidham. We'd like to make mention of our sponsor, Greer's Markets, 29 locations, Alabama, Florida, Mississippi, serving the Gulf Coast for over 100 years. They have Lucy's Famous Recipes. She has a book that you can purchase online as well and see those recipes. And remember, family, friends, and all the sporting events. That's a winning tradition at Greer's, where you can score big savings on fresh meats, produce, and more game day spreads. You have all the specials coming up for Mardi Gras. So if you can't come down to one of those 29 locations, you can go to Groceries to Go and have that delivered to your home, your office, your venue of choice. They have their coloring contest for their children. They have the weekly online ads. Any holidays, birthdays, anniversaries, special days in your family, for your family, make sure you think about Greer's and those 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi. And remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. But we'd like to bring on our special guest, friend of the show for many years, Trevor Groves, the publisher and owner of CUTigers.com. And that's the Clemson Tigers. There's so many Tigers around the country, Trevor.
Right.
We have to make that distinction.
Yeah, I make the distinction in my website, CU. There's only one CUTigers.com. There's only one CU Tigers. There's a lot of Tigers, but there's an AU Tigers. There's a what is it?
Missouri.
Missouri Tigers. Yeah, there's a MU, Memphis University Tigers.
Memphis, that's Tigers everywhere.
Tigers, so
only one CU. That's it for sure. I'm glad you mentioned that. For sure. But Trevor, there's a lot happening between this ACC and SEC, Clemson and Ole Miss. Just to set the stage, we had the linebacker, freshman defensive player of the year, I believe, nearly 100 tackles for the University of California, Luke Forelli. Is that right? Go ahead. Say that again.
Yeah, 95 tackles last season, I think.
95. I put it at 100 for myself. But anyhow, he's a very good player. What is he, 6'3", 230, something from the San Diego area.
Yep.
Had all intentions of being at Clemson, enrolled, was there for maybe a couple of weeks. All of a sudden, there's communication with Ole Miss, and they're asking about how much is the buyout. And next thing you know, we have the Dabo Swinney press conference, and I'll let you take it from there because maybe you have something on your mind that you want to tell our audience about this situation.
Yeah, well, you laid it out pretty well there, AP. I mean, it's basically been like a soap opera, right? It's just been ridiculous. So it all came to a head, I guess, on the 15th, the day before the transfer portal was set to close.
Right.
And Dabo had a press conference on Friday. Number one, I shouldn't say number one. He would have had a press conference anyway to introduce Chad Morris as the new offensive coordinator. But I think the number one on the agenda for him was to get out, to expose everything that had been happening. And Graham Neff, the athletic director at Clemson, was there at the press conference on Friday as well. And of course, I have the entire press conference on my website, CUTigers.com, if you've missed it. But I'm sure you've seen lots of sound bites from it if you're a
Yes.
diehard college football fan, because it's I guess it was on Monday, because the press conference was at 3:30 Friday afternoon. But I guess it wasn't, especially with the storms all weekend, it wasn't until Monday morning when it really became like a national, everywhere you look, they're talking about this thing.
Yes.
But yeah. So basically, that this kid Luke Farrelly, the linebacker, he not only, like as AP said, he had committed to Clemson. He had signed all of his paperwork. He had moved in at Clemson, had an apartment. He was attending class at Clemson. He had even attended team meetings with his linebacker coach and Boulware at Clemson.
Right.
So, he's about as ensconced and embedded in Clemson as you can possibly be, right? And all the while, he and his agent, and we have to get used to that idea, the players now have agents, just like professionals. Yes. The whole time, they were being contacted by Pete Golding from Ole Miss, the new head coach, and also their GM there at Ole Miss, and they were asking him what the buyout was to get him out from under Clemson and bring him to Ole Miss, and offering him more money, all sorts of things. They in fact, the kid was actually sitting in class. This is the worst. I mean, I've heard a lot of stories about tampering, AP, but this is the most egregious, like, just despicable act of tampering that I have heard. And maybe they're worse, I don't know. But the kid was actually sitting in one of his Clemson classes, supposed to be paying attention to the professor, right? Because these are students, right? I think they're still student athletes. I don't know anymore. They sure. I mean, all indications of the contrary. They're not students. But anyway, he was in his class because he's supposed to be a student athlete,
right?
And Pete Golding is texting him while he's in class, tampering with him while he's in class.
He's in class,
sending him a picture on his phone of $1 million contract to come to Ole Miss.
Right.
And he's also texting him, telling him that Trinidad Chambliss, the Ole Miss quarterback, who, by the way, he might not even be at Ole Miss next year, because I don't know if it's been settled or not, whether he's getting an extra year. In fact, I thought the NCAA denied his extra year of eligibility, but he should go pro anyway. I think he's like rated as the number 3 quarterback in this draft.
Quarterback, highly rated.
I mean, he ought to go. He ought to be a first rounder, so you should go pro anyway. But he even despite all that, he's even recruiting and trying to persuade Luke Farrelly to go to Ole Miss, even though he probably isn't even going to be on the team there next year. Also they had other players trying to persuade him and coax him into going there. It's just absolute travesty. It really is. And so, bottom line, long story short, is the kid and his agent kept sandbagging Dabo and the GM Jordan Sorrells, and the athletic director Graham Neff, all the while telling him, and his linebacker coach Ben Boulware, all the while telling them that, don't worry about it, I'm not going anywhere. Yeah, they've been Ole Miss has been contacting me. Yeah, I want to let you know about it, but nothing to worry about. I'm not going anywhere. And he kept singing this same song and dance all the way up until the last day that he could enter the transfer portal, and then all of a sudden he stopped returning Dabo's calls. So Dabo drives over to his house with Jordan Sorrells to confront him and find out what the heck is going on. And he comes out, tells Dabo, "I'm going to Ole Miss, coach." That's it.
Something. Yeah, that's
he's gone. So that's the state of affairs that we live in now, AP. It's absolutely insane and ridiculous. And I don't know how you're supposed to be a coach like Dabo, who does everything the right way and has ethics and integrity and character, and trying to build his roster the right way, when he has other coaches coming in, swooping in, and literally breaking every rule in the book. And there's nothing that they've reported it to the NCAA, but nothing's going to happen. There is no NCAA. Are you kidding me? The NCAA is like a shell corporation. They're basically, all they do is put their logo on the basketball court during March Madness. That's what the NCAA is. And I think
Right.
they throw a bunch of parties for their executives during March Madness too. But
Right.
I've never heard of them actually doing their jobs or doing anything resembling a job. I mean, other than promoting March Madness. I've never,
Right.
yeah, I mean, yeah, they have tournaments for their other, Olympic sports, their non-revenue sports too. But they don't do anything. They haven't actually enforced a rule in probably since before COVID, which is why I thought that what was his name? Mark Emmert, the former NCAA president.
Correct.
I thought that's why he got fired, was for doing absolutely nothing other than playing golf. And
Right.
I thought once he was canned, that the next guy might come in and there might actually be some enforcement and some sanity. But nope, it's gotten even worse. I mean, these kids, they're not kids anymore, right? They're professionals. Let's call it what it is. There's pay for play. I mean, it's not even tied to education anymore.
Yeah.
They ought to be contractually obligated, just like professional athletes in the NFL are contractually obligated.
Like ever. Hey, Trevor, we're going to come back and continue this discussion. I mean, we have so much to elaborate. But anyway, we're going to be right back after these messages with Trevor Groves, the publisher owner of CUTigers.com. We'll be back after these messages with AP as we see it. Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greer's.com and use Groceries to Go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. And we're back with AP as we see it in our very special guest. Trevor Groves, publisher, owner of CUTigers.com, covering the Clemson University Tigers on all levels with their athletic programs. Trevor, Dabo, he's mentioned giving the Ole Miss coach grace, thinking, well, he's new to the position. Of course, we know all the coaches are supposed to know about recruiting. They're supposed to take an exam, I think, to be fluent in all that subject matter, particularly. And then when he just didn't back off, there was nothing else he could do. He just forced his hand like at the poker table, right? Where I'm calling your bluff here. And so he had to come to the table and have that press conference. And I think this is a key moment for the NCAA. They're going to be able to enforce tampering when we know there's tampering, because if you're into the portal and you have a no contact and then 1 minute after 12, you sign with somebody else, obviously you had been talking to someone or someone in your camp, your representative, your family, your former maybe high school coach, somebody was discussing terms. So I don't see how they enforce the tampering, Trevor. But I would guess that if you have all these receipts, as we shall say, that Dabo is presenting, and in the face of this evidence, are you going to just not do anything, not punish anybody? So then it's wide open for everybody.
Yeah, I'm fully expecting the NCAA to do absolutely nothing here, AP. They've proven it time and time again. Even if they do something, it'll be 3 years from now, after the kid's already in the NFL.
Right. And maybe transferred 2 more times. I don't know. Probably. Who knows? Yeah. Who knows?
Right. And it'll be, some insignificant slap on the wrist. I mean, the NCAA has not done anything, even when they found people guilty of cheating, right? Like North Carolina in basketball, like they still haven't even laid down any sanctions for it,
Right.
So
right.
I expect nothing to happen. The only thing I'm hoping will come of this, and I think the same with Dabo. Dabo doesn't care that he's going to Ole Miss.
No.
I mean, especially with that attitude, if he's going to be that, whimsical and fickle, that no loyalty. I mean, doesn't want to be in Clemson. Dabo doesn't want him to be on the team.
No, he stated that as such. He did. He stated as such. Yeah,
that'd be cancerous, right? To force him and keep him in the locker room. But it's a principle, right? And what Dabo wants is what I want: some kind of regulation, some kind of rule, some kind of rule enforcement, some kind of governance that will keep this sort of thing from happening on and on and on and on again. Because how is Dabo supposed to build a roster?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
So there has to be. I don't know if it's going to be a college commissioner, like someone like Nick Saban, stepping in, being the ultimate say and laying down the law, like like the first commissioner of baseball did with the Chicago Black Sox in 1919. I don't know if it's going to be that. I don't know if it's going to be Congress actually laying down legislation, but someone somewhere, and it's clearly not going to be the NCAA. They have no backbone. They have no juice when it comes to football or well, maybe a little so basketball, but really not when it comes to the rules violations and things of that nature. But there has to be at some point, even if you're going to allow tampering after a guy enters the portal and commits to a team, there's got to be some point at which there's no more. There's got to be some point at which, like, let's say, okay, he signed his rules of financial responsibility with Clemson. At that point, he can't go play for anybody else at all, at least for a year. So that right there would stop it, right? Because the kid's not going to transfer. He's not going to transfer to Ole Miss if he has to sit out a year, right?
Yeah,
So
I would say, I would say if you filed that agreement, I don't know if this is legal or you have these, confidentiality agreements. If you could file it somewhere and said, okay, he filed this agreement,
Like
no one else could tamper with him to sign another agreement.
Right, and
He filed the agreement.
Right, with high school recruits, it's a letter of intent, right? Once you fax that letter of intent with your John Hancock on it, you can't play somewhere else that season. As simple as that. So
maybe they can make it simple. Yeah, I don't know.
And they could. I mean, it's arbitrary when you make the cutoff, but have a cutoff. Right now, there's no cutoff. The kid's actually attending classes at Clemson and going to team meetings for Pete's sake, and he's still being stolen by another coach right out from under Clemson. So there's got to be some kind of rule, some kind of. It's just the wild, wild west right now. And like I said, these players are pros. They are getting paid. They're professionals. They should be contractually in the pros. You can't tamper because they're contractually obvious. You'll get sued for breach of contract. And it should be the same thing with these college players that are making millions of dollars and that have professional agents representing them. They should get sued for breach of contract.
Yeah, I would say definitely buyer beware. All the universities and colleges and schools to have penalties, and I would also say the player to have any penalties if they're wronged as well. Have it on both sides. That way, at least when something happens, you can be satisfied with the return of the money and maybe some compensatory damages. So that way, it would I think discourage this leaving on at the 12th hour, the 11th hour. There, I mean, to go somewhere else.
You know what's funny, AP? Remember, I'm sure you do. Remember Robert Kimdichie?
Oh yes.
So he was committed. He was a 5-star recruit, committed to play at Clemson for Dabo. This would have been like I believe it was like 2013, 2014.
Yes, a while ago, yes.
Committed to Clemson, and then there was a bunch of shady stuff going on with Ole Miss. They gave his dad a job. He ended up at Ole Miss and became an All-American at Ole Miss. So this isn't the first time that Ole Miss has bent or broken the rules to screw with Clemson and steal a marquee player. So, and I don't know, and the irony to me is the fact Dabo was so resistant to the portal, right? I mean, he never took one player of consequence out of the portal until last season, and he only took 3. One of them was for an FCS, and only one of the 3 started. And so here he is. He's finally like going whole hog, embracing the portal. I think they had like 7 guys, I want to say, coming in, transfers from the portal. So he's finally doing it not voluntarily, but because he's forced to because of all the players transferring out. But he finally goes into the portal, and now Ole Miss comes along. Maybe they thought they could take advantage of him. I don't know. Maybe their thought was, Dabo's new to this whole portal thing. He doesn't
maybe so.
We'll be able to pull the fast one on over Dabo because he's never really dealt with the transfers before.
No, and the other thing is, he called the commissioner of the ACC, and I'm wondering if we're ever going to hear. I think the SEC. They have a tendency to wait till the NCAA responds, but I would say I've got to say something publicly for the fans of my league, and for the coaches, and for the schools, and for all those people who follow SEC football. We do not want this to continue. I think that'd be a good public relations move, but so far it's been quiet. Jim Phillips, did he have a statement, Trevor? He had a statement?
I haven't seen one yet.
Yeah,
but
he hadn't had
I'm sure there's one to come. Like you said, Dabo and Graham Neff have contacted him, so he knows fully what's going on. I don't expect anything from Greg Sankey. I mean, I really don't.
Right.
If this had been another SEC school, then maybe.
Right.
You know, if Ole Miss had stolen one of Georgia's players this way or something of that ilk,
right.
Then I could see that, but forthcoming. But
Yeah.
Greg Sankey, at least my opinion of him is that he never does anything that's not in his best interest. And if in this case, you'd be reprimanding one of your institutions,
Right.
in defense of an ACC team. So I don't see that happening with Sankey, but maybe he'll prove me wrong. Maybe he'll take the high road on this one.
Yeah, I'm anxious to see what it has said after their findings, because this, as Dabo stated, this should not take 3 years, 3 weeks, maybe, not 3 years, not even. I don't see 3 months. I don't even see 3 months.
And it's just the beginning. I mean, it's only a matter of time until this is just going to snowball and get bigger. And you're going to hear more and more of these stories, especially because Dabo's kind of like broken the ice, right? I mean, there's always like that first person.
Takes one. That's
forward,
it.
Right. And so now I think the next coach that this happens to is going to be equally as vocal, and we're going to start hearing about it more and more.
Yeah, I know Duke got into the situation with Miami at the 11th hour with a quarterback, and so I don't know what Duke is going to come up with for a quarterback. I have no idea, but they're in a very bad position. Yeah,
they pivoted well last year when they lost. Was it Riley Leonard?
Riley went to Notre Dame, and then they brought in Malik Murphy, right, last year, right?
Right. And then he transferred out.
He transferred. I couldn't understand that. I thought he was a pretty good ball player, and he did well for him.
I did too. I don't know why. I don't know the details,
circumstances.
Of why he left. But when Duke announced that they got Mensa from Tulane, I was like, wow, that's a pretty good replacement.
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. For sure.
We got to do it again. Poor Duke.
No. Hey, Trevor, we got to get going here.
We're defending ACC champion Duke, right?
How weird is that? In 1989, right? Steve Spurrier, 89, maybe? Is that right?
First time.
Is that correct? Spurrier. Yeah, it's amazing. But anyway, big SEC, ACC matchup to start the season. I hope to see that. I think I'm going to try to beat this ball game, cover this game. Clemson at LSU, the Tigers versus the Tigers. Do they have the same fight song? Is it slightly different?
It's slightly different.
Slightly different, okay.
Yeah, there are similarities between the two. Like they both spell out Tigers at one point.
Oh, okay. Okay.
There's a part hold that tiger in with both songs.
Oh yeah, and they spell the word go differently too.
That's true. Yeah, you got the spelling for the LSU Cajuns.
Right.
But yeah, LSU's fight song's a little bit slower though.
I see. Okay.
I'm naturally unbiased as a Clemson grad, but
I hear you.
I've always liked that Clemson's Tiger Rag is a little bit more upbeat.
Oh yeah.
But it's, I'm glad you're hoping to go. I look forward to seeing you there if you do. I've
always
never been to Tiger Stadium, the fake Death Valley, of course.
Okay.
Version.
I hear you.
It came about 40 years after Clemson's Death Valley was famous.
Yeah. Hey, Trevor, we got to get going. Trevor Grove was publisher owner, CUTigers.com. We'll be right back after these messages with AP as we see it. Thank you, Trevor.
Thanks, AP.
Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greers.com and use Groceries to Go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. And we're back with AP as we see it in our very special guest, Jay Bilas, basketball analyst extraordinaire, and he's a practicing attorney as well. Jay, welcome to AP as we see it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Great to be with you.
Appreciate it. Jay, just some initial observations about the SEC men's basketball. It seems like it's wide open.
Yeah, I think the SEC can make a claim for the second year in a row of being the best conference in the country, but it's different from last year. I think last year the power at the top was extraordinary. You had so many great teams that were capable of not only making an Elite Eight, but a Final Four and contend for a national championship. I don't think the strength at the top of the league is the same or comparable to what it was last year, but top to bottom, I do think it's the best league. The Big 12 has perhaps stronger teams at the top, and Big 10 comparable teams at the top, but I'm not sure sort of depth-wise. I think the Southeastern Conference has more sort of quality teams, and I think the fact they've played so many close games against one another has been a pretty good indication of the overall strength of the league. And that may not resonate with some people. They're like, well, who cares whether the bottom of the league is good? Yeah. It's how many teams can contend for a title or contend for a Final Four. That tends to be what moves the average fan.
Right, correct. I was going to discuss one team, Texas A&M University with buckyball. Interesting, they're not ranked in the AP top 25, but they're at the top of the league. Many games to be played, but what have you seen from Texas A&M in buckyball? Bucky McMillan, head coach.
Yeah, Bucky's a really good coach. He was a high school coach not all that long ago in Birmingham, Alabama, before he went to Samford. And they've had some really good wins, and especially of late. And I think when you play that style of pressuring all over the floor and trying to force turnovers, they've got one of the better turnover margins in the country. And they force a turnover on one of every 5 possessions, give or take, whatever their number is. It takes a while for most players to figure that frenetic style out. And look, a lot of players say, "Hey, I want to play fast," but playing fast is hard.
It sure is.
It requires a lot of effort and coordination and communication, and that can take some time to implement and to put in. But they've had some really good wins. Winning that game at Auburn, I think, was really important. And when they beat Texas earlier this month, a week ago or so, Texas is playing really well. So those were very, very good wins. But it's fair. Like, I don't have a problem with them not being ranked. Those rankings are just what's happening lately.
For sure. Yeah.
And I do think, like, Texas A&M's really good. But their overall numbers, they're probably like a top 35, top 40 offense and around the same defensively, but they're trending in a really good direction. So what they are now, like, I think the analytics, you have to be careful with that, because the analytics tell you what you've done. It doesn't tell you what you're capable of doing in the future. It may be a fair indicator, but the analytics are really backward looking rather than forward looking.
Any indication that you've seen there's a team in the SEC that can emerge as one of the better ones and having a chance for the Final Four, or if there's more than one team?
Well, I would say Florida and Arkansas are two, and maybe throw Alabama in that once they kind of get healthy. Like, Alabama's lost a couple games here of late, but health has a lot to do with it. They've had some guys injured, some guys out. I just find it kind of difficult to square. You lose to Tennessee and it's not factored in. Aiden Holloway didn't play. I mean, that guy gave you 30 in any given game.
Yes.
So you have to factor those things in when you're making an overall evaluation. Florida is still emerging. I think their guard play is continuing to get better with Boogie Flan and Xavier Lee. And, for those that expected Florida to be the same team they were last year, they're still really good, and they're going to be even better going forward. And they played a brutal schedule. So I think most teams that played against that schedule would lose 5 or 6 games by now, which Florida has. But they lost a historically good backcourt from last year, like losing Elijah Martin, Walter Clayton Jr., Will Richard, and then Denzel Aberdeen went to Kentucky. That was as good a quartet of guards as the Southeastern Conference has ever seen, in my view. But I do think Arkansas is trending in a really good direction, especially as their guards. They just asserted Malik Thomas into the starting lineup, and that brings DJ Wagner off the bench. And Darius Acup Jr. has been not only one of the best guards in the country, he's been one of the best players in the country. So I would say those teams, and Auburn is continuing to get better. They've got good personnel, but they don't have as many returnees as they've had in the past. And I still think Tennessee has its best moments ahead. I think they're getting there. There's just been some odd ups and downs with regard to decision making. And, like I was at their game against Kentucky where, they had a 17-point lead at one point. And it was one of those games that, if you're looking at it from the Tennessee perspective, like on one hand, you have to marvel at, Kentucky winning that game, being down that much. So you want to give credit where credit's due. But I would love sometime to just show one highlight and then narrate it from each coach's point of view. Because, you have a turnover and one coach will say, hey, great job, great hands defensively, way to knock that thing away and all that stuff. And then the other coach will be, hey, what are you kidding? You just let that guy take it away from you. Be strong with the ball. It's that kind of, that's sort of what I'm saying. But if you look at it just in that context from the Tennessee perspective, they made some decisions late in that game that bring losing into the equation. If they'd handled a few things better, that was a game that I think an objective observer would say Tennessee should have won that one. And I think those are the kind of things that they can improve upon toward the end of the season. And I think they will. I think they'll be much better in a month than they are now.
Arkansas is rated as 15, seen by many as the best in the conference at this moment. Jay, you got 2 or 3 teams nationally that you feel can be in the Final Four and make it to Indianapolis?
Oh yeah, I mean, I it's funny. I don't see this year like I did last year. I think around this time, maybe the start of February last year, I felt like Florida was the best team. Maybe it was around the time that Florida won at Auburn with Elijah Martin out. Then I thought, man, these guys are ridiculous. Like they're the best team. And everybody, I think most people acknowledge best team doesn't always win in any sport, but especially in college basketball where it's a one and out thing. It's a 7-game series. You might be able to pick a winner now, but it's much more difficult in college. But last year I felt like 4 teams that kind of separated around mid-February. And they ultimately wound up being the 4 number 1 seeds. And for only the second time since seeding began, all 4 number 1 seeds made it to the Final Four. So, you can sit there and pat yourself on the back and say, boy, we were right, or I was right, whatever. But that was just last year. Like this year, wide open isn't fair because I don't think it's wide open. But I do think Arizona and Michigan are the top favorites. And Arizona is the best they've been under Tommy Lloyd. And that's pretty darn good because they've been outstanding under him. And they've got the best balance of offense and defense that I've seen this year. Next would be Michigan. But they've got great depth. Their freshmen are not freshmen. Braden Burries and Koa Pete are legit. And they play with a confidence that is unusual. It's hard to speed them up. Even when they were kind of getting challenged at BYU the other night, I think it was Monday night, they were okay. Like they weathered it. And a lot of teams don't weather that kind of thing, and they weathered it. I feel the same way about Michigan. Like you just don't. It's not easy to be top 5 or top 6, whatever it is right now in offense and defense. And there are 3 teams right now that are doing that: Arizona, Michigan, and then Duke. And I wouldn't have said this a month ago. I didn't think Duke was great a month ago. They're great now. They are figuring a lot of things out, and they've got a superstar in Cameron Boozer, and they've got elite role players that they've got 2 special defenders in Dame Sarr and Malik Brown that are perfectly content to impact the game without scoring. And that's a luxury to have players like that.
Mm-hmm. One other team, Jay, we have about 45 seconds. Nebraska undefeated. That's surprising. Like Indiana in football undefeated, Nebraska basketball undefeated.
Yeah, Nebraska got clipped at Michigan, but they had who I consider to be their best player, Rink Mast, out, and still it was a 1-possession game that they led throughout most of the game. but they're legit. I think they're probably a little bit better defensively than they are offensively, but their offense is really hard to deal with because they spread the floor. They've got playmakers at just about every position, and especially when Rank Mass is in there, to have a big guy that can rebound at that high a level and he scores. But also he's a fantastic passer. They run really creative offense, and they do a great job of spreading. They're one of the best passing and cutting teams, I believe, in the country. Not a great offensive rebounding team, so they don't get a lot of second chance opportunities that way. And they're not a team that I think gets to the free throw line as much as you would like. But they played a good schedule, and they played very, very well against it. So I don't have any doubt that it seems crazy to say this, but Nebraska's never won an NCAA tournament game, and I think that
didn't know that
again ends this year.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm glad you clarified that too on the record. We're going to be right back with our very special guest, Jay Bilas, basketball analyst extraordinaire, with another segment of AP as we see it. We'll be right back after these messages. Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greers.com and use Groceries to Go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. And we're back with AP as we see it. Our very special guest, Jay Bilas, basketball analyst extraordinaire and a practicing attorney. Jay, we want to delve into some things with the NCAA. Jay, the Wild West era in history lasted about 30 years. Are we going to be less than 30 years with this Wild West at the NCAA, the transfer portal and NIL?
Well, I mean, reasonable minds can differ on this, but I don't really consider it to be the Wild West. I mean, coaches don't like it because it's different. And I get it. The transfer portal makes their jobs a little bit more difficult, or maybe a lot more difficult, but they're pretty well compensated. I think they can handle it. And if it's with regard to players being compensated and their status of having choice now, where they never had choice before, if that's the Wild Wild West, then that's the Wild Wild West that the rest of us live in.
Exactly.
I think anytime you try to restrict choice, you better have a principled reason for doing so. And the transfer portal is not some bug in the system. It's a feature. The NCAA was the one that implemented the transfer portal. And to me, look, there are downsides to it. It's difficult for a mid-major program that recruits a diamond in the rough to keep that player when that player emerges. But what are we saying? That we want a player like Dalton Connect to be, anchored down at Northern Colorado, and because that's the way he was perceived out of high school, he has to stay there his whole career.
Right.
I think he should have the choice. And if we're saying that, but he should sit out a year, why should he have to sit out a year of his life and give up a year of his life to play on a stage he's always wanted to play on? And so I realize it's different from the way it used to be, but in my view, these perceived problems are easily remedied by the NCAA simply allowing schools to pay their players directly, and if they want to sign them to multi-year contracts, then do so. It's not that difficult. We're just making it difficult by trying to hold on to an antiquated system in a multi-billion-dollar entertainment industry. And look, it's uncomfortable when you consider we're running a multi-billion-dollar entertainment industry off college campuses, and we want to make it seem like somehow athletes should play for the love of the game when no one else in America is required to do something for the love of it without being compensated.
Yes.
And I don't see love and money being mutually exclusive. I played professional basketball for a while. I loved it more when I got paid, not less. So there are some issues that I think are making people uncomfortable. One of those is eligibility standards. And there's been a lot of discussion about recent acquisitions of talent that has come from the G League and maybe from overseas. And one thing that I think is important to remember is that with the exception of Charles Bediako at Alabama, all the players that are playing now were deemed eligible by the NCAA under its rules. So what are we arguing about? Are we saying let's keep international players out if they've accepted compensation playing in a different system than we have? I don't think reasonable people would say that. Are we saying that if they played in the G League and never enrolled in college, that they're forever barred from playing college sports? I think that would be kind of ridiculous. But reasonable minds can differ on that. Here's one thing that I think we could do, or I shouldn't say we, the NCAA could do. I tend to say we when you love something, but
yes.
The NCAA could put eligibility standards and basically put in a rule that says college sports are for undergraduate full-time students only. And they could try to put a window on it by saying you have 5 years or 6 years, whatever they choose,
yes,
from your high school graduation in order to complete your eligibility. But one thing, we've never had an age restriction in college sports. There have been older players. I mean, there's a 30-year-old playing college sports right now, college basketball. We've got multiple 26, 27-year-olds playing, and we've had that in the past. That's nothing new. But because players can now be compensated in college, they're staying longer. And when we had the one and done issue, I mean, one and done sounds like such an antiquated argument, like people didn't like one and done when it came in. They said, oh, they're just mercenaries. They're rentals. They're 1 year rentals. Right. And now we've decided to call somebody else a mercenary. Now it's older players, they're just coming back for the money and all this stuff. And, I get kind of exasperated by these ridiculous arguments. It's kind of like my thing is if you don't want a player from the G League, then don't recruit them. But what you're really saying is we don't want to play against them. The Bediako thing is a little more nuanced.
Yes.
He played at Alabama for 2 years, renounced his eligibility and went into the NBA draft. He went undrafted and signed a two-way NBA contract. A two-way contract is where you can play a certain amount of games with the NBA team, but then you play the rest of the year in the G League. He never played an NBA game. And Alabama is basically saying, look, that's a distinction without a difference. There's no difference between Charles Bediako and James Najee, who enrolled at Baylor after going through the NBA draft and being drafted and then playing overseas. And Bediako got a temporary restraining order in a state court in Alabama. And what Alabama is saying normally, or usually, I shouldn't say normally, usually when there's that kind of state court ruling, which has happened in the past on eligibility, not this specific thing, but a school would say, well, we're going to wait until there's a final disposition here because we don't want to take the chance of this player later being ruled ineligible, and then we have to vacate all the games we won and give back money, things like that. But Alabama's saying, screw it. We believe in this. We know him. He's played here. We know his heart. We think he's a good guy, and we think he should have the opportunity to come back and play. So, and he's familiar with us. We're familiar with him. So it's not like they went to some NFL practice squad and pulled some player off they'd never seen before. So it's a little more nuanced than people think. But at the end of this, and again, it's just my view, we're left with, at least I feel like we're left with young people that they want to be in college and go to school and pursue a degree. Is that so horrible? With player compensation, we have players staying longer now, and they're getting their degrees. So what's so wrong with that? And again, if whether it's the transfer portal or these other issues we're talking about, if you don't think a player can come to your school and be eligible academically and be on track for a degree, then don't take them. Don't take them. But let's not act like these guys are, they're committing some sort of federal crime by wanting to play college sports and get paid while they're doing it and pursue a degree. It's to me, this a lot of the criticism that these young people are receiving. It's not just them; it's their schools. Is a little over the top. We're not in a crisis. Like remember people were and a few coaches specifically, but people had their hair on fire over James Najee. He's averaging
Right.
1.7 points per game, and Baylor's won like 2 games since he started playing. I mean, what are we talking about here? And a couple of the others haven't played. And Charles Bediako in his debut with Alabama scored 13 points. Like that's not nothing. But that day, 3 freshmen scored over 40 in a game. So it's not like he's coming in here and dominating against these preschoolers. They act like he's coming in playing against a bunch of 5-year-olds, and that's not the case.
No, and they lost the game too. You speak my language. Jay, 2 subjects we want to get in the last about 2 minutes and a half or so, if we can do it. Sustainability is a word you hear, but won't market forces determine the sustainability? You remember that movie Citizen Kane, and the accountant came to Orson Welles, the tycoon publisher, and said, "We're losing $1 million a year." And he said, "Well, in 50 years, we'll have to stop printing."
Well, I think it's sustainable because we're talking about what we're talking about here is a game that's had significant change with regard to how players are treated over the past several years, and ratings are up. So the NCAA told us that the end of amateurism was, interest is going to wane and people weren't going to put up with it because they love amateurism. Right. None of that was true. No, ratings are way up. The college football playoff, college football in general, way up.
Exactly.
If there's a crisis looming, it's certainly very well hidden. And so and we haven't seen any schools pulling back on investment.
No.
In fact,
you won't.
Equity sees college sports as being undervalued, and they're trying to get in. And so I don't put any credence in that. And I've never believed this nonsense or what I consider to be nonsense, that somehow college sports differentiates itself by the fact there's amateurism. There's nothing amateur. There never has been anything amateur about college sports. It's been an unnecessary wage restriction on athletes and athletes only when coaches were making millions and nobody complained then. So it's not a big deal. It's absolutely sustainable.
Yeah, I believe so too. It's a joke. The czar, you hear that czar? I'm thinking you've been around many commissioners. I don't see commissioners giving up their sport to a czar in any sport. Do you?
No,
about a minute, Shay. Yeah.
And maybe nor should they. If you want to have a commissioner, I mean, the commissioners of the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, they're beholden to the owners. The difference in those sports is they bargain collectively with the athletes, and that's what college sports needs to do. And if Congress chooses to get involved, that's where it should get involved. It should exempt athletes from labor laws so that they can sign independent contractor deals with their schools. And it should create a federal pathway for collective bargaining, because that's the way for this to be run the right way. But unilateral wage restrictions on athletes from the NCAA is not. It hasn't worked, and it's not going to work in the future.
And I think they should cap the coaches too. That's the biggest variable in winning. And the coaches never say we're going to cap ourselves. So, but Jay, it's been fantastic. Thank you so much for being a guest. And we'll be back next week with another episode of AP as we see it. Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greers.com and use Groceries to Go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it.